Let me begin with the truth that often goes unspoken: the world does not see you clearly. It sees what it wants to see: a softer presence, a gentler voice, a quieter strength. But buried beneath those labels lies a power so deep, so unshakable, that it cannot be measured by appearance, noise, or dominance. You've been told your softness is a flaw, that your sensitivity makes you fragile, that your compassion slows you down. But what if I told you that everything they call a weakness is actually your greatest weapon? Perceived weaknesses are hidden strengths. We live in a world that is quick to label, to define, and to box people in based on outdated expectations. For women especially, there is a long-standing cultural tendency to associate strength with traits that are loud, dominant, and forceful, while dismissing qualities like empathy, softness, vulnerability, and intuition as weaknesses. These perceptions are not only misleading, they are deeply limiting. Because what we often see as feminine weaknesses are, in fact, powerful tools for influence, leadership, and inner mastery when embraced with awareness and intention. Stoicism, at its core, is a philosophy that teaches us to look inward, to find our power in what we can control, and to remain unmoved by external opinion. It asks us to strip away illusion and see things as they truly are. When we apply this lens to the notion of female weakness, we begin to realize that the very traits that are marginalized or misunderstood are actually expressions of profound strength. Take emotional sensitivity, for example. Society tends to view emotion as an unstable force, something that clouds judgment or weakens resolve. But this view is shallow. Sensitivity is not instability, it is intelligence. It is the ability to sense subtleties in a room, to detect shifts in energy, to empathize deeply with the experience of others. That kind of attunement is a gift in any relationship, team, or negotiation. Emotional sensitivity allows for deeper connection, better conflict resolution, and a more profound understanding of human behavior. In a world that often prizes efficiency over empathy, sensitivity becomes a superpower, quiet, steady, and irreplaceable. The same goes for intuition. Often dismissed as irrational or mystical, intuition is actually a refined cognitive process rooted in experience and subconscious analysis. Women are often more socially attuned, more observant of nuance, and more capable of reading between the lines, not because they are weaker thinkers, but because they are multifaceted ones. Intuition picks up where logic leaves off. It allows for quick decision-making in moments where data may be incomplete, and it enables deeper trust in one's inner compass. What some call just a feeling is often years of subconscious learning rising to the surface in a flash of clarity. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. Even the capacity to feel deeply, to cry, or to experience heartbreak is seen as a disadvantage in a world obsessed with control. But feeling deeply is not the opposite of strength, though it is strength. To allow yourself to feel is to allow yourself to be changed, to grow, and to connect. The person who can sit with pain without flinching, who can move through sorrow without becoming bitter, who can love even after being broken, that person is unshakable. Stoicism doesn't mean numbness. It means emotional discipline, not denial. And only someone who truly feels can truly learn to rise above the emotion while still honoring it. Then there's the tendency to nurture, to care, to support others. In male-dominated systems, nurturing is often seen as subordinate or secondary. But leadership without care is tyranny. Power without compassion is destruction. The ability to nurture others, whether in families, friendships, or workplaces, is the foundation of all healthy systems. A nurturing person builds trust, brings cohesion, and creates environments where others thrive. This is not a minor role, it is the most essential one. The world is not falling apart because of too much softness, it's cracking because of the absence of it. What about the fear of conflict or the desire to maintain harmony? These traits are frequently painted as signs of weakness or indecision. But look closer. The person who avoids conflict is not always the coward, it is often the wise one who sees the price of unnecessary battle. Not every hill is worth dying on. The desire for harmony is not a desire to suppress one's voice, but a desire to preserve peace, unity, and connection. In environments where conflict is constant, harmony becomes a radical act of resistance. It takes great strength to stay calm when provoked, to seek peace when offended, and to remain steady when others are losing their center. That's not avoidancy, that's leadership. Overthinking is another trait often criticized. Women are frequently told they're too much in their heads, that they analyze things too deeply, or that they second-guess themselves. But what is overthinking, really? It is the desire to get things right. It is the capacity for deep reflection, for ethical concern, for accountability. While unchecked overthinking can become a burden, its root is the drive for excellence. The person who thinks deeply is the one who sees consequences before they arrive, who considers others before acting, and who pauses before making irreversible choices. In a world driven by impulse, overthinking, when tempered by self-trust, too, is a hidden strength. Even the act of trusting too easily, or giving others the benefit of the doubt, is labeled as naive. But trust is not always weakness, it is courage. It is the willingness to believe in goodness, even when the world has taught you not to. It is the decision to lead with faith rather than fear. Yes, some will take advantage, but the person who trusts easily often creates environments where others rise to meet that trust. Trust breeds trust, and where trust lives, loyalty, creativity, and innovation follow. The world does not move forward on suspicion, it moves forward on belief. Self-doubt, too, is seen as a flaw, especially in women. Yet, a degree of self-doubt keeps us humble. It keeps us curious. It keeps us open to growth. The danger lies not in doubt, but in being paralyzed by it. A Stoic doesn't pretend to know everything, they live with awareness of their limitations and strive to transcend them. Self-doubt, when channeled properly, becomes self-inquiry. And self-inquiry leads to mastery. To overlove is perhaps one of the most criticized and misunderstood female traits, is actually one of the most powerful. Love that is deep, enduring, and unconditional can change people. It can rebuild families, transform communities, and bring healing to the most broken spaces. To overlove is not to lose yourself in others, but to give yourself so fully that others remember how to love too. This is not weakness. This is divine strength. In truth, every perceived female weakness holds a mirror to the very values Stoicism upholds: resilience, self-awareness, emotional discipline, and inner strength. Stoicism does not ask us to be emotionless, it asks us to be ruled by reason rather than reaction. It asks us to observe ourselves honestly, to accept what we cannot control, and to fiercely govern what we can. So, when the world tries to make you ashamed of your sensitivity, remember that it's your insight. When they mock your tears, remember that it's your courage to feel. When they say you love too deeply, remember that it's your power to transform. What they call weakness is often simply misunderstood power in a quieter form. The challenge is not to erase these traits, but to wield them with awareness, clarity, and confidence. To realize that your softness is not your downfall, but your edge. That your heart does not hold you back, it lights the way forward. And that every time you're told to toughen up, maybe it's the world that needs to soften. Because the true Stoic does not armor herself against the world, she walks through it with unshakable grace. Would you like this adapted into a video voiceover script or formatted for a blog post? Embrace, don't erase, your nature. In a world that constantly tells you to be different, louder, tougher, and less of yourself, the most radical thing you can do is embrace your true nature. Not to mold yourself into what others think you should be, but to stand firmly and peacefully in who you are. The world conditions women to edit themes, to filter, to shrink, to conform. It trains you to apologize for your emotions, to downplay your intelligence, to hide your power unless it comes in a form that makes others comfortable. But your nature is not a flaw to correct, it is a flame to protect. To erase it is to erase the essence of your strength. To embrace it is to unlock the very thing that will carry you through anything. From the moment a girl begins to understand the world around her, she receives signals, some spoken, many silent, that parts of her are too much, or not enough, too sensitive, too strong, too quiet, too ambitious, too emotional, too assertive. So she begins to negotiate with herself. She tones herself down in rooms that can't handle her light. She questions her instincts in places that honor only logic. She tightens her voice, adjusts her walk, filters her words. She gets smaller to make others comfortable, and little by little, her true nature becomes something she hides, rather than something she honors. But no real power can grow in that space. The more you erase your nature, the more disconnected you become from your own intuition, your own wisdom, and your own peace. Stoic philosophy teaches that we are each born with a unique essence, our logos, our rational soul that is meant to guide our actions and shape our lives. To go against this essence is to live in contradiction, and a life lived in contradiction is a life filled with tension, anxiety, and inner confusion. Your nature is not an accident. It is a collection of instincts, tendencies, emotions, and gifts that were given to you for a reason. Some people lead with logic, some lead with compassion, some lead with fire, others lead with calm. But all of it has a place. The oak does not try to be a willow. The river does not wish to be the mountain. Each honors its designer and in doing so, fulfills its purpose. You were not born to be a copy of someone else's idea of strength. You were born to embody your own. To embrace your nature is to become rooted. It is to stop shape-shifting for approval and start standing in alignment with your truth. It is to allow yourself to feel without apology, to think deeply without guilt, to move through the world with authenticity, rather than performance. That doesn't mean you never grow. It doesn't mean you reject feedback or stay fixed in every habit. But it does mean that your growth is aligned with your essence and not in opposition to it. When you embrace your nature, you stop fighting yourself. You stop spending your energy trying to fit into molds that were never meant for you. You start conserving that energy for things that truly matter: your purpose, your relationships, your well-being. You start listening to the quiet inner voice that says, "This is who I am," and trusting that it knows what it's doing. You become less reactive to other people's opinions. You stop chasing validation from people who only understand performance, not presence. You become rooted in your own sense of worth. The world is not always kind to women who live this way. There will be people who misunderstand your softness, misinterpret your silence, and misjudge your strength. There will be those who ask you to explain yourself, to make yourself smaller, to turn down the volume of your soul. And when you refuse, they may call you difficult, or emotional, or intimidating. Let them. You are not here to make yourself digestible. You are here to be whole. The Stoics taught that we must align ourselves with natura, and not just the external nature of the world, but our internal nature as well. That means understanding our temperament, our emotional rhythms, our thought patterns, our core values. It means recognizing what energizes us, what drains us, what grounds us, and what disrupts our peace. It means honoring the wisdom of our body, the power of our intuition, and the clarity of our quiet. You don't need to be like anyone else to be valid. You need only to be fully, fiercely, peacefully yourself. The danger of erasing your nature is not just personal, it is collective. Every time a woman denies her nature, the world loses a little more truth. Because your nature brings a specific kind of wisdom that no one else can replicate. If you are a natural healer, and you try to become a competitor, the world loses your medicine. If you are a thinker, and you force yourself to be an entertainer, the world loses your depth. If you are a leader, and you shrink into the background out of fear of judgment, the world loses your guidance. You are not just responsible for living your truth for yourself, you are responsible for living it so that others may be inspired to do the same. Embracing your nature means embracing the full range of who you are. Your passion, your quiet, your intuition, your logic, your fire, your tears, your tenderness, your vision, your longing, your fear, your wisdom. It means no longer apologizing for needing rest, or space, or solitude. It means no longer explaining why you think deeply, feel fully, or move slowly. It means no longer editing yourself to be more palatable for those who have not yet met themselves. This path requires courage. It is easier to blend in, easier to perform, easier to be what others expect. But ease is not always peace. Sometimes peace comes only after the fire, or after you've burned away everything that is not you, and what remains after that fire is real, raw, and unshakably you. That is where your power lies, not in the parts of you that perform strength, but in the parts that live it. When a woman embraces her nature, something profound happens. She becomes clear, and clarity is power. She knows what she will allow and what she will walk away from. She knows how to say yes without losing herself and how to say no without guilt. She knows when to rest and when to rise. She knows that her worth is not in how much she gives, but in how deeply she lives. And that kind of clarity cannot be shaken by the chaos of the world. Stoicism teaches us not to be ruled by emotion, but it does not teach us to fear it. It teaches us to witness our feelings, to understand them, and to choose our response. That is the key, not suppression, but mastery. The woman who embraces her nature does not become enslaved to it. She learns to navigate it with wisdom. She doesn't lash out in anger, but she does not suppress it either. She doesn't collapse in sadness, but she allows it to move through her. She doesn't lose herself in joy, but she lets it flood her soul when it comes. She lives fully, but she is not controlled by the waves. She learns to surf them with grace. There is no strength in becoming a version of yourself that the world finds more acceptable but you find less. Emotional intelligence is the real upper hand. In a world that celebrates outward dominance, high status, and quick wins, it is easy to overlook the quiet, transformative force of emotional intelligence. It doesn't demand the spotlight, it doesn't scream for attention, and it doesn't need to overpower anyone to prove its worth. Yet, in every sphere of life, here personal, professional, social, emotional intelligence is the one quality that separates true power from performative strength. It is the real upper hand, and not because it shouts the loudest, but because it understands the deepest. At its core, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and harness emotions of both your own and those of others. It's not about avoiding feelings or suppressing them. It's about mastering them, being able to navigate the tides of anger, fear, joy, grief, love, and uncertainty without drowning in any of them. It's the inner compass that helps you stay grounded in chaos, soft in conflict, and wise in uncertainty. Emotional intelligence is the unshakable calm in the center of the storm, and when you learn how to live from that space, you are untouchable in ways that brute force or surface-level charm can never replicate. For women, emotional intelligence often comes naturally, though society rarely teaches them to honor it. Instead, it tells them they're too emotional, too reactive, too soft-hearted to lead, negotiate, or compete. And yet, it is precisely this emotional attunement, this ability to read a room, to sense energy, to speak into another's pain, that gives them a subtle but powerful edge. It allows them to connect where others divide, to de-escalate where others explode, to influence where others intimidate. Emotional intelligence is not a passive strength, though it is a strategic one. There's power in being able to sit with your own emotions without projecting them onto others. There's power in being angry and not retaliating, in being heartbroken and not collapsing, in being disappointed and still responding with clarity. These moments may seem quiet from the outside, but internally, they are acts of tremendous strength. Emotional intelligence is the force that teaches you to respond instead of react, to pause before you speak, to lead with empathy without compromising your boundaries. It is strength wrapped in grace, clarity armored in kindness. A Stoic does not reject emotion, they refine it. They do not become cold or detached, but disciplined and intentional. This is the heart of emotional intelligence, here learning to feel everything, but choosing what to express, when to express it, and how. The woman who has mastered this is not easy to provoke. She doesn't waste her energy on drama. She doesn't spiral into insecurity. She has trained herself to watch her emotions rise like waves, and rather than be thrown by them, she rides them until they pass. And when she speaks, it is not from a place of turbulence, but from clarity, depth, and calm. The emotionally intelligent woman is a storm and stillness in one. She knows her emotional patterns. She knows what triggers her, what soothes her, and what keeps her centered. She doesn't need to be controlled by the opinions of others, because she has learned to control the narrative within herself. She understands that power doesn't always need to confront her, sometimes it just needs to remain grounded. She can walk away from arguments she could win, because she knows that peace is more valuable than pride. She can forgive without forgetting, and trust herself to know when to stay soft and when to stand firm. In leadership, emotional intelligence is often the unseen advantage. It's the reason people listen when she speaks. It's the calm she brings to a tense meeting. It's the way she notices the one person in the room who's hurting and makes space for them to be seen. It's the instinct she has to say just the right thing at just the right time, here not because she's performing, but because she's paying attention. While others are busy trying to be heard, she is busy understanding. And because of that, people follow her not out of fear, but out of trust. That is a power that cannot be stolen or faked. In relationships, emotional intelligence builds bonds that last. It's the patience to listen without interrupting, the strength to apologize without ego, the clarity to express needs without blame, the wisdom to recognize when someone else is speaking from pain, not truth, and the maturity to know that love is not control, but connection. A woman who possesses emotional intelligence doesn't play games, so she speaks directly, loves fully, and sets boundaries without needing to justify them. She creates a safe emotional environment, not because she avoids hard conversations, but because she has mastered them. Even in solitude, emotional intelligence is transformative. It's what allows her to sit in silence and not feel empty, to face her own inner shadows without shame, to process grief without distraction, to hold space for herself when no one else is available. She does not depend on the world to stabilize her because she has cultivated that inner steadiness over time. She knows how to take care of her own nervous system, how to come back to center when she's overwhelmed, and how to separate her feelings from her facts. She doesn't collapse in front of her emotions as she holds them like sacred guests, learns from them, and then lets them go. There is a quiet confidence that comes from emotional intelligence, not the kind that brags, but the kind that is undeniable. You can feel it in the way she carries herself, and not rushed, not reactive, not desperate to be understood. She listens more than she speaks. She sees more than she says. She doesn't need to be loud to be respected, because her energy speaks for her. That calm, grounded presence becomes a mirror. People feel safe in her presence, not because she has all the answers, but because she isn't afraid of the questions. The emotionally intelligent woman is not perfect, and she does not claim to be. She has moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments of messiness. But what makes her different is that she doesn't run from those moments. She moves through them with honesty and intention. She takes responsibility for her energy. She doesn't make others clean up her emotional messes. She owns her feelings, tends to them, and then chooses how to move forward. This is the real mark of emotional maturity, not perfection, but ownership. Emotional intelligence is not a gift that some are born with. It is a skill that is cultivated through self-awareness, reflection, and deep inner work. It is learned in the hard conversations, the quiet breakdowns, the uncomfortable pauses, and the intentional healing. It grows every time you choose to respond with compassion instead of reactivity, to listen instead of attack, to pause instead of panic. Every time you choose alignment over approval, clarity over chaos, peace over proving, you build that muscle. And over time, it becomes your default. In a society that often mistakes volume for value and aggression for authority, emotional intelligence is the quiet force that shifts everything without needing to dominate anything. It does not compete, it connects. It does not impress, it impacts. It does not react, it responds. And it is in that difference that real power is found. The truth is, anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can argue, blame, or posture. But it takes discipline to stay grounded. It takes maturity to hold space for tension without collapsing into it. It takes courage to feel deeply and still choose wisely. And that is what emotional intelligence gives you, not just the ability to feel, but the ability to lead yourself and others through those feelings with presence, clarity, and strength. When you realize this, you stop wasting energy trying to appear powerful, and start investing in becoming powerful. You stop trying to control others and start mastering yourself. You stop needing to be right and start choosing to be wise. Because emotional intelligence teaches you that real power is not in control, it is in connection. And when you are connected to yourself, to your values, to your peace, you are already ahead. You don't need to change who you are to succeed. You need to realize that every so-called weakness is simply power waiting to be understood. Remember the Stoic lesson: you are not ruled by what happens to you, you are ruled by how you respond. And your response is rooted in empathy, in depth, in solo is your superpower. Let them underestimate you. Let them misread the silence. Let them call it weakness. Because when the world looks for strength in the storm a broken bar, it's not the loudest voice they'll follow, it's the calm within it.